live.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. We have Maureen from Diva in the Dirt, and she is a urban gardener. So or urban homesteader. So we're going to talk to her about all the things that she faces and how she overcomes those things in an urban setting. But first, we want to thank her for coming on. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So kind of jump right into it. You know, like I said, this is something that I ask everybody. What got you into wanting to homestead?
Well, I would probably say, 2020, what was going on there because, oh, hey, GT Junior, thanks for coming in and hanging out.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm a jazz and blues singer. That's what I do. I'm a professional jazz and blues singer, and that's what I do. I'm a teacher. I teach voice and then perform. And 2020 said, you are so non-essential. You're at the bottom of the heap. And so the cool thing was it was the first time I ever took a summer off because I teach right through, you take, Christmas holidays off or, whatever, because I have a lot of adult students. And so, taking the summer off, it was absolutely fabulous. And I wasn't a gardener. My mom's an avid gardener, and she's like, it's so therapeutic, it's wonderful. And I'd like, no, it's full of bugs and it's icky and the dirt and I don't like how my hands feel. And I what I had done is the year before I had changed our patio. It had wrecked, and so we put in concrete blocks, and I started decorating my patio. And it's like, because I'm not a patio person either, it's like, hey, let's make it a patio. And I put some pots on, and I grew a few things in pots, and then once you start pulling food from your own garden, and you're like, this is basically it's free, when you think about, even if I bought starter plants, and and I just kind of fell in love with the idea. I guess because I'm a creative person, I was becoming creative in my yard. And so I started building planter boxes. And then a friend of mine, she got chickens, and I said, I have no space for chickens. And she and her husband said, no, we can help you find a spot. And so she, my daughter, and myself, I built my chicken coop, and I just kind of fell in love with this idea. And then just the way the climate is in this world and the price of things, it just kind of snowballed more into where, it's like, I want to grow my own food.
Right.
I don't want to be reliant on, a grocery store. Like, I have a big family. I have 5 kidults. Like, they're all in I think I have one child left in their 20s. Everybody else is in their 30s.
Right.
And, we do family dinner every Sunday, and it's, and we love Caesar salad, and we make it, from scratch, the whole 9 yards. But it's 3 heads of romaine. And there was one Sunday, it was like, okay, we don't have any romaine. There was none at Costco. And so I said, well, just run out to whatever grocery store. They went out to a couple of grocery stores, and they were $7 for a very wilted head of romaine. And you go, that's $21 just for the lettuce.
Yep.
And I went, nope, no problem. I will just end up growing, 20 to 30 romaine heads that last me throughout the summer, and how I strategically plant them. So it getting into permaculture. So I do the straw bales, I do the wood chips, I do all those things. And it just became this, for lack of a better word, a bit of an addiction.
Right. Right.
I didn't know what I could grow. Like, I'm up in Canada, right? I am in zone 9B. So it's not too bad, but it would be like, well, I don't know if I can grow that. So I would, put things into ground. And just the whole homesteady thing. Like, well, let me back up. I was, when my kids were small, I did homeschool them, and I wanted the big farm. Like, I wanted a urban farm, but when I thought about the dirt and stuff, I went, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so here in my, I always say my later life, I actually got into it, and it was like, okay, let's get into the pressure canning. Let's get into, we found a place where we could get raw milk, and we started making cheese and butter.
Oh, cool.
And all of these things, these are what are, if I look back, my mom didn't do them, my grandmother didn't do them, but my great grandma did all this sort of stuff. She had the
Right.
chickens, she canned them up and stuff. And so it was that thing of like, I want to become more self-sufficient. I want to be able to also teach my children or anybody else, And so even in these last 3 years, like I will put on a canning class, or or let people come bring their food, bring the food to my house, and we'll can it up if they can't afford to buy a can, or
Right.
I'll teach sourdough bread classes. And so it just became this thing where I fell in love with the whole idea of homesteading in my little urban center here.
Right. And that's so cool though too, that you didn't just keep it for yourself. You started to do classes and stuff to teach others that they can do this same thing, and I think a lot of times, what happens is we learn something for ourselves and we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we do it and we are successful at it. But where we fail a lot of times is teaching others that way. And I think as a whole, that's how society is. And that's why it's harder to get some of these people on board, because we're not teaching them. We're not going out in the community and trying to help them or teach them. So
Yeah.
I really, that's awesome that you do that.
Mhm.
So what, challenges do you face in that urban setting? I know we were talking before we got on, about the chickens and things, but I'm sure there's more than just chickens, that you face, troubles that you face in that urban setting.
Yeah, well, for the most part, for me, we're in the subdivision that I'm in. The houses are a little older, so I actually have just under a quarter of an acre of property, so it's a bigger lot. I have a huge out front. I have a huge, massive boulevard, and then there is shrubbery, and then I have kind of what I call the mid yard, and then my backyard, and that whole front is in pure sun all day. And I get to mow it, like for the city. It's like, here, please mow the weeds. And I slowly but surely turned it into a permaculture. So it is completely covered in wood chips. And I was concerned, for myself, how I do things is I do it first and then I ask questions later, and I'm not, so there's been days where I go, oh, are the city people going to come and say, okay, you can't have this mess?
Right.
But so far, nothing with that. Mostly it's the chickens. And of course, we can't have roosters. And we're only allowed 5 chickens in my subdivision. But I think somebody up the street, I think they've got chickens and they actually have a rooster. But I think their property is just a little bit bigger. With most things, I don't know the bylaws and I keep myself that way, and it's like, then I can go, well, I didn't know that if I get a fine for something. But so far, it's only just been the chickens, but how my house is situated and where the chickens are, it doesn't affect my neighbors. So, and every so often what you do is you just go, hey, here's a dozen eggs. Would you like some?
There you go.
Here's 3 eggs. And I've never had my neighbors complain about, if the chickens are being a bit noisy in the morning or things like that. They do hear them. Some neighbors go, oh yeah, I heard your chickens. But it's not bothering them. But other than that, I don't personally have any other bylaws that I'm aware of. And like I said, I keep myself unaware purposely.
Right. There you go. Well, I mean, and then that makes sense. I mean, that's a smart way to be, just, oh, I didn't know, now I'm sure you'll run into somebody at some point if you ever did do something wrong and say, oh, well, ignorance is no excuse of the law, like try to get you like that. But, I mean, the thing is I don't understand how people can say, oh, well, this is the set of rules, and keep you from being happy, keep you from being productive and doing life how you want to live it,
Exactly.
It's very disturbing to think that there's people out there that are like that, but I mean, they are.
They
So
are.
outside of the law part of it or the bylaws part of it, what other challenges do you face, like growing, in those conditions, growing in an urban setting? I know it would be hard for me too, because I'm used to being able to go out and, take up however much space I need to plant my garden or whatever. So what challenges have you faced that? And how have you overcome those?
Yeah. So I do a little bit of, like I said, all different styles of gardening. So, right from, I'll have things in pots. All my herbs are usually in pots, and then I will have a whole set of lettuces in pots on my deck here. And then in the back, I will put lettuces in between my tomatoes.
Okay.
So that's also, so I do a lot of staggered gardening. So like, the tomatoes, I'll have my indeterminate tomatoes on one level, and then right behind it, I'll have the indeterminate. And in between the two, I put a whole big row of lettuces, and they are kept cool by the tomatoes. So it's learning how to, multi-plant, but having each plant, one plant help the other.
Right.
But it was like, and then with my straw bales, like I do straw bale gardening out in the front. And like this year alone was like, this is my biggest year for the amount of produce. And I grew 1,485 pounds of food on this.
Wow.
Little, yeah.
That is awesome. That is amazing.
I was absolutely shocked myself. And so it is about trying to be strategic about where you place things. Again, I do use a lot of pots as well, and so that I can move the pots around if I need to. But there's still a lot of green space. Like I probably, if I was wanting to make my mid yard to be I could turn it into a food forest as well.
Right.
But it's would I like to have the opportunity just to grow in a big long row? Yes, I would. But it is, you go, okay, here's a little section here. I'm going to turn it into a garden bed. Let's make it a little raised bed. And so I try to utilize what garden spaces I do have, and then multi-sowing as well. So that you're, you start the next batch so that you're, keeping yourself in constant. And then I love green beans, and and green beans are soil fixers. Like they have that nitrogen. So I'll put beans, I'll have a bush bean over here, bush bean over here. I'll just put them in all sorts of different places. So I'm packed, and I will say, like, there was one day we were sitting out, my daughter and I were sitting, and this woman was walking by. It was back in the spring, and she's with her husband, and, and she used a bit of an expletive, like, what a piece of,
right.
And I wanted to yell back at her, oh, come back in 3 months when it is like all huge and green and luscious, and
right.
You go, and there is a ton of food out there.
Well, my wife, I can understand that, because my wife absolutely hates when the yard looks like it does right now, right? Or how it looks in the early spring. She's like, oh, I just can't stand it. It looks horrible. It's a mess, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. But from June till October, it's really pretty, and everybody stops and looks. I was like, so I don't care what it looks like right now. They can kiss my butt if they don't like it,
Exactly. Yeah, it is that thing where it just looks like death. You're just like, why? It just looks like death and destruction and sadness. And I do use I get coffee sacks from a local coffee. What are they? They sell coffee. And so I get the coffee sacks, and I will actually put the coffee sacks over top of my gardens instead of putting, straw or putting a cover crop. So and that helps to make it look not so death and destruction looking out there. So
right. Yeah, that would probably help a little bit out there if I did something like that with mine. So I'm interested in these straw bales that you're planting in. So can you kind of, because there's going to be a ton of people I know that's going to be like, planting a straw bale, how does that even work? So can you kind of go over how you do that?
Right. I'll give you my version, because there is an official method of straw bale gardening where you bring out your straw bale and you feed it with some sort of nitrogen mix, and then water it, and you have these kind of like, it's almost like a 30-day step to condition your straw bale.
Right.
I just need life to be easy. So being that I live on Vancouver Island, we get rain throughout the winter. And so I put my straw bales out. That's already they're getting nice and wet, and they're also starting to decompose. And then when it is time to go plant, I simply, got my starts ready. I put a hole in there, just kind of wiggle it around, put, 2 handfuls of soil in, put in some, if I'm doing a squash, I'll put 2 cups of organic fertilizer feed into it, put in the starter. That's it. And then when
Really?
it's when and the thing is that the straw bale gets warm, the straw bale also keeps the moisture in it. So I just water the straw bales, put on, like, I use a compost tea, which I call poo poo juice, and I pour that in. I'll do that once a week, but I just water it. But it's not like you have to water every day because it is keeping that moisture in. And I've seen, I did try my sweet potatoes in a straw bale, and it didn't work. I was attempting to put the straw bale on its side, and that was a big mistake, but just flat. But no, I grew my zucchini. I grew zucchini, carnival squash, spaghetti squash, patty pans, crookneck squash, all in these straw bales, and it just is prolific. And then at the end of the season, when you open up that straw bale, it's all broken down. You've got beautiful organic matter in there, and that gets tossed onto my gardens. So
That's cool. So, and Jason, I thought the same thing as she was telling me this. I thought about next year getting like 20 of these straw bales and planting some giant pumpkins in them, just so I could see if it would grow a giant or not. So we may have to do a little bit of play with that, Jason. But like, are you seeing any kind of like decrease in, like fungi, bacterial issues, any kind of disease pressures off of those straw bales? Or like, are you seeing a decrease in it, or maybe the
no,
same as you do in the
I
ground?
no, same as usual. Like I'll get the powdery mildew, on my squash leaves and stuff like that. But other than that, nothing.
Okay,
No,
cool.
no extra pests, nothing. And but I have seen it was where it got me started was where there was someone in the south there, and they put their sweet potatoes in. And when it was the end of the season, of course, and they get a longer growing season. It's hotter.
Right.
They just opened it up, and it was just massive sweet potatoes in this straw bale, and it was like, I want that. I want
So,
that.
what do you think happened to your sweet potatoes when you tried?
Um, actually, well, like I said, I had, I had some straw bales that were flat, and then I put some on their sides, and
Right.
I think that was the first mistake, was don't put it on its side.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I think that year the temperatures weren't the best here. Like,
Okay.
um, my mom lives, like, I live in British Columbia, and she lives about central British Columbia, and all the different things that I keep growing, she's like, she never was able to grow sweet potatoes. She's not able to grow, citruses, lemons, and limes. And, I grew loofahs this year, and she's always like, wow, I didn't know we could grow those in Canada. And it's like, apparently we can. Apparently.
Yeah, the loofahs are a lot of fun, and I remember in 2021 when I first grew loofahs, I was showing people around, and they were like, "I've seen these in the stores." I think I said, "Yeah, they're the scrubby things," and they were like, "Are you serious? Though, like we thought they were just woven together or something." I was like, "No, it's all natural. It's grown."
Yeah. Every person that I show the loofah to, and I go, where did you think it came from? We all go, isn't it a sea sponge?
That's
We all
funny.
thought it came from the ocean. Like my mom, my friends, like everybody go, I totally thought it came from. I said, nope. And I didn't get very many loofahs. So because I would have liked to have tried, what does it taste like when it's small? Because I said it's
Yeah.
like a cucumber, mid-size, it's like a squash, and then if you let
Yep.
it go right to harvest, then you've got this scrubber.
Right.
And yeah, and so so this was my first year to attempt them, and like I said, I didn't get many. And so it is something where you go, okay, I had some in the backyard in a hot spot, but the ones I grew in my pots, I got some decent size loofahs.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so the pot and in the front, it definitely preferred that. So
Um, the neighbors that I have beside me, they got a lot of goats and they make a lot of soap, and so they get them from me, and then they make scrubbers they make, those, they cut them so wide and then they set the soap in, on them or whatever you want to call it. So then you got a scrubber with the soap already in it,
Yeah.
And that was a pretty cool idea. So, but I love loofahs. They're really awesome little, because who would have thought, right? That,
Well, it's like, again, it's that part of that self-sufficiency, and you're using a good organic matter, and it's, as it breaks down, it's just going to disintegrate. It's not, a harsh item out in the environment. And
right.
That is one of my plans too, is to get into soap making, grow the loofahs, make our own soaps to sell and things like that.
So, I'm glad we're on that topic then. So how would you go about making the soap? Because I know, we have the goats ourselves, and then, we're waiting. Hopefully she's pregnant now, our doe. So we'll be able to milk her hopefully in the wintertime. But, how would you go about getting the things to make? Would you just make it out of like coconut oil or something? Or would you? Okay.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah. My goal is to have an acreage and be able to have multiple animals and things like that, one at a time. However, it's like, I learned how to dispatch and dress chickens. This past year, I went out to a farm and volunteered my time. And because I just went, I'd like to learn, is this something that I could do? And sure enough, it is. So it's like, the goal is to buy property so that I can have my own meat birds, fill up my own freezers, and give to friends and things like that. And then eventually, add in another animal, learn how to look after that animal. So, and goats, even though they got those little devil eyes, I would, it's like, they're such a versatile and useful animal for a farm. So, but.
Right. They are. Let's see. Yeah, Jason, you're right. It would take about 30 bales to do that. But I think it would be fun. I think it'd be something fun to try. Or giant tomatoes, growing giant tomatoes. Have you grown tomatoes in hay bales?
No, I haven't done those. Okay. No, in my front, that everything I grow there, it's like garlic, potatoes. I'll do onions. I'll do the squashes, the sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes, things that the deer won't go after. So the tomatoes are all in the back. But we grew. I wasn't trying to grow for the size of tomato. I was growing for the quantity.
Right.
And we don't eat a lot of fresh tomato, but we do make our own ketchup, tomato sauce, and salsa. We make a lot of salsa, and so we were looking at what is the best paste tomato, that we're getting the best flavor and the best size of, and we went with one that it's an heirloom that came from Italy, and they nicknamed it a Nona tomato because it came from their Nona, but I think it's an Italian pear style tomato, and there is very little seed in it, and the flavor is absolutely out of this world, and just the sole weight of the tomatoes is fantastic, and then super prolific. So
hang on one second, I got a tick on me.
Oh,
hey honey, bring me something to kill this tick.
Oh my gosh.
I've been out in the woods, y'all, so I was just telling her before I got on, I was looking for the biggest buck of my life, and kill that rascal. I don't want no Lyme disease or
my gosh,
spotted fever again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I done had Rocky Mountain spotted fever before, huh? Yeah, that's the deer ticks. That's in little rascals. You have to check me out real good here in a little bit. Yeah. I don't want no. I've had Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It about killed me. But anyways, what I was gonna say is like we grow several Italian tomatoes. Like one of them's a Genovese. I can't think of the other two, but they're really good. Those heirloom style tomatoes from Italy are very, very good tomatoes. Like we enjoy them a lot. The only problem we've ever found with them is they're not as good at combating, disease pressure and stuff like that. Okay. But they are very, very delicious. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask how, like, out of all that food that you grew, how much of it did you get to make something out of and put away? And how long does that end up lasting you? Do you get enough that lasts you from, 1 year to the next, or are you having to end up supplementing any?
No, last year's spaghetti squash, I think the last one that we ate was in August. And this year I didn't get as many. Oh, what are you? I didn't get as many spaghetti squash, but I got another one that's a carnival squash. And again, super prolific. Lots of acorn squash. This is my first year to grow acorn squashes. And so it is something where it's like we've got plenty, and then with the tomatoes, we ended up picking the last few green and just let them ripen inside. And then I just throw them into the freezer because we are going to just do sauce. And we're actually going to do another batch of salsa because we make a really great tortilla soup.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just some ground beef and then 2 jars of salsa. Add, maybe a bit of beef stock, and we'll throw in some corn, maybe some black beans, and a little bit more cumin and oregano. And it's just, we make massive pots of it. And then if there is anything left over, then I can it up. That's been
that sounds really good. You got a video on that?
No, actually, I've never made a video on our tortilla soup. And
I kind of like to see that.
Yeah,
because that sounds really good.
It's really delicious, and then it's super fast, right?
Right.
And then and anything that, like I said, if we make a great big vat of it, if there's leftovers, then you go, oh, 6 jars, we'll just fill them up into canning jars, throw it through the pressure canner, and we're done. And you go, now I've got it, on the shelf. Right. So right now I do have the rhubarb is in the freezer. My daughter just took all the elderberries and she just made the elderberry syrup, but there is massive amounts of tomatoes in the freezer right now. But I was away for a few days visiting my mom, and then we're leaving this weekend to go visit some other family. So it's like once I get back, then it's like, okay, I'd like to clean out the freezer of all the tomatoes and things like that. So lots went up, lots goes up, lots gets frozen processed. This year was my first time with hot peppers to actually dehydrate them and grind them down. And wow, is that ever good?
You like doing that?
I do. I always just have left them, and I'll just chop them up. But it's like you grind them up, and you got these nice little jars of hot peppers. And
yep.
Mm-hmm. And I did. Today was my first. I took all my peppers. I have when I used to teach, I have a 400 square foot building on my property. That's where was my studio. So it's now my greenhouse or greenhouse studio. And so I took some of the potted peppers indoors, and because my Carolina Reaper was just starting to get a little bit of fruit on it. And so I picked 3 of them today. They were ripe, and it's like I've never had a Carolina Reaper yet. So I do know it's supposed to be like very, very hot. So so that one, it's like, not sure if I'll be, will I grow them again, or.
I would highly recommend not. Just, just not. Because that's one of the things that I do here. I love growing different varieties of hot pepper. My wife, the only pepper she likes is, some bell peppers and a lot of banana peppers, right?
Okay.
But I grow over 90 different varieties of peppers, and the majority of them are very, very hot peppers. Like Carolina Reapers and Primatalis and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And she always, why do you grow all these? Well, for one, the seeds are worth a lot of money, right? 2, you can make tensioners out of them, or you can make powders, and then you make those powders into muscle relaxing creams and stuff like that, right? There's so many different things that you can do with a very, very hot pepper, right? So I grow a lot of them because of that. However, I always end up getting myself hurt on accident somehow, some way. I will be cleaning them or something, and I'll forget, and I'll do like that, and then I'm in the bathroom crying, trying to get it rinsed out. But don't try the Carolina Reaper by itself. Maybe what I would suggest is get some salsa, right, and cut a little bit of the Reaper off of it, and then put it in that salsa jar and shake it up really good. Leave it sit for a few days like that, and then eat the salsa. Yeah, because if the Reaper by itself will hurt you.
Yeah.
Like like
Oh, that's good.
I've never met anybody like I mean I've seen people eat them
Mhm.
and the effects are pretty bad, but I've never met anybody who can eat it and just say, "Oh yeah, that was good. I think I'll have another." So yeah, because it normally hurts you pretty bad.
Okay,
So
I will keep that in mind. But when you're discussing it, it's like now my mouth's watering. It's like, well, that's what I should go do is just go and put it in with the salsa. But I have my eldest brother. I'd actually like to send him one or ask him about it if he's had one because he likes food so hot. Like we'll say, hey, we're gonna go and have some Indian food. And we're going to eat at this particular place where he knows it's really hot, and he will instantly begin perspiring from
oh
his
really?
forehead because he's so looking forward to it. The body's already like, we're going to eat that hot food,
Right.
and so I would wonder if
There's a lot of good things to eating hot food. Hot food supposedly, now I don't know that there's science behind it, but supposedly the guy who invented the Carolina Reaper, Ed Curry, had created that pepper, ate that pepper, and successfully cured himself of cancer with that pepper.
wow,
And now there are little things that I've read here and there that says that hot peppers can help kind of like anthocyanins in purple foods, right? How they kind of fight back cancers. That there are some things that I've read that say, hot peppers can kind of help fight it or whatever.
right,
I mean, there's it's kind of inconclusive from what I've seen, but
hmm,
I do know that they help release endorphins. The
right,
hot pepper helps release endorphins. And that's probably what he's got going on is muscle memory, and he's remembering, and endorphins are being released without even having to eat it, right?
yeah,
But they do release endorphins, which makes people happier, more cheerful, gives you more energy. It also releases stress and stuff like that. So there's a lot of benefits to eating hot stuff. We love hot stuff. The kids love hot stuff. When I make deer jerky, I make one batch really hot for me and the kids, and one batch not so hot for my wife because she don't want something that's gonna. She says you make it so hot it burns the taste out your mouth. But we do enjoy very very hot food, and I think some of that is an acquired taste, right?
mhm,
Ever since I was little, I don't know if you've ever seen hot fries, like Andy Cap hot fries.
no,
They're so Andy Cap hot fries. They come in this little blue bag, and I've been eating them since I was 5-6 years old. My dad would bring me home from school, and we'd be sitting at the grocery store where he was a butcher back then, and he'd be doing stuff, and he'd get me a bag of that and a Coke, and I'd sit there and eat the whole bag and then drink the Coke.
wow,
So yeah, so I mean, I love hot, and all they are is a skinny potato chip that looks like a fry, and they're pretty hot, but yeah, it's kind of an acquired taste, I think, and then some of it, is trying to learn how to build up tolerances to some of it. I mean, I've had stuff that's been so hot it literally doubles me over in pain later. You know what I mean?
wow,
Like
yeah,
after
yeah,
eating it, like some of that
yeah,
Indian food, right? Like
yeah,
that will be like you're sitting there enjoying it, loving it, and eating it, and then a few hours later, you're like, oh, that was so bad, my stomach is killing me. But
hmm,
but it is good. I mean, it's very good, and I think like if you look at some of these cultures that eat really hot food, their people live a lot longer.
hmm,
So I
hmm,
mean, I do think that there's a lot of good things that come from hot peppers, and I love
yeah,
eating them. But yeah, we grow lots of them. Like I said, we dehydrate them, we turn them into powders, or we save them. We just cut them up, dehydrate them, leave them in the bag, and then we'll add them to meals and things like that. We also
hmm,
do sweet peppers like that and banana peppers as well.
right,
That way you got them for the long haul, right? I mean, you can
hmm,
just put them in a soup and they rehydrate, and you can use them that way. So
exactly,
what else? We also do tomatoes that way too. We dehydrate tomatoes,
yeah,
and we'll slice them up, dehydrate them, and then we can turn them into powders to make tomato paste, or just put them in dishes and stuff like that, and they're really
yeah.
good too. So
Yeah,
how else?
we didn't do 2 years ago. I did actually like kind of did a dried tomato to make like a sun-dried tomato and
Right.
then canned it into oil, and it is absolutely delicious. And that was a recommendation from another content creator, and they just said, um it's sun-dried tomatoes are super super expensive in the
Yes,
stores,
they
and so
are.
here is a way, of a good means of making, some extra cash, on the side, is make your own. And so that is something. It took me a bit of, you know, troubleshooting of trying to get the right, dehydration to it. Oh,
Right.
we burned that batch. Oh, okay, that batch took too long. And but now I have a new little machine which I think will dehydrate them very well. And so next year I'll probably look into that.
Yeah.
So you were
Yeah. I highly recommend doing it because it does save you money. You can make money off of it. But you're right. You do have to figure out, like, if you're doing bigger tomatoes, you got to figure out how thick the slice is. If you're
yeah.
doing cherry tomatoes, you got to figure out which one has the thinner skin and can dehydrate a little bit faster. So I can try to, if I remember, I'll try to send you a list of what all we use.
Okay.
Like the Chardonnay, I do know does very, very well. That is the
Okay.
cherry tomato that does great, is the Chardonnay.
Right.
And then the Amur Tiger does pretty good as well. So, and Black Strawberry is the other one that we done, and that does very, very good too.
Mm,
I'll have to remember the rest of them. Those were the cherry ones, but I'll have to go back and look at the rest of them. Black Beauty does really good. The big Black Beauties, they do really well for dehydration. And you slice them at like about an 1/8 inch thick or so, and they do really, really well. But yeah, we love doing that because, like I said, you can make powders, you can make sun dried tomatoes and the oil and stuff like that, and the flavor is so good. Like when you
yeah.
put it in, like one of our favorite things to use them in is the Mediterranean dish that my wife cooks. It's like Mediterranean chicken pesto pasta or whatever, or chicken pesto tortellini is what it is.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
we use sun-dried tomatoes in that, and then we'll also use fresh tomatoes in it as well. And it's just
Mm,
phenomenal. The taste is
mm.
just out of this world.
Would you ever use Romas to dehydrate, or do
I
you
don't
just
I
not
don't
even
grow I
grow
don't
them?
yeah, I don't grow Romas because they're determinate, right? Romas are
Yeah,
determinate tomato. Yeah,
yeah.
so like I have a hard time growing determinates, just like because I'm so fixed on heirloom tomatoes and indeterminate varieties. Like, so I just like, because there's so many different ones that are out there. Like, I'm just always trying, and then within that trying, for taste and texture, I'm also looking at which ones grow the best here and fight back disease pressure and pest pressure and stuff
Right,
the best. So I have never tried Romas. I probably should try them because everybody that grows Romas always has really good success with them.
right.
And that would probably help me get that early first batch, because heirlooms always take longer. And that would help
Mhm.
me get that early first batch in. That way I could just start processing. As I probably should grow them, but I've never made space for them, but
Yeah,
I probably should.
yeah. I think my seeds that I got them from my mom, and she probably just got them from the grocery store, and she grew them for a couple of years and then given them to me. So we've had this. So that is one tomato that I will always grow because I would like to have this that I can pass on to my kids. This is,
Right,
these are, tomatoes from grandma's and that. So
right.
I will grow those ones in particular. And it's like, yeah, they're indeterminate, but they will just be, covered. But I think that's what I used for my sun-dried tomatoes that I did a couple of years ago. So
Yeah,
mhm.
I'll try to play with them and see next year because, like, I dehydrated. We're already out, uh, almost out. I'm looking at them right now. We're almost out of uh, dehydrated tomatoes, and I've made a lot more than what I made last year, and so we're already out. And like, so next year, I guess I'm gonna have to make like 20 gallons of them, and
Mhm.
because like we use them for everything, we never really paid attention to what all you can use them for, but we literally use them for everything.
Right.
So that would really help me because then I would get that early start, and then it wouldn't be such a push at the end of summer trying to dehydrate because we got 3 dehydrators that from about August until it frosts, they're going nonstop 24/7. As
Right.
soon as one
Right.
thing's done, they're coming off, more stuff's going on. And so
Right.
it really consumes a lot of time. Whereas if I could start getting tomatoes in, the end of July,
Mhm.
like that would be a lot better.
Mhm.
So you said that you're just now picking the Carolina Reapers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not frosted there yet?
We sort of well, I brought them indoors. They're in
Okay.
pots.
Okay.
Yeah, I brought them indoors,
Okay.
and we did sort of get a like we went. I think we went down to 34 degrees for you, so it would be like a -2 for us in Celsius, so about
Okay.
34 degrees. But it stays super mild here. We might get a dump of snow. Last year, the snow, it was like Christmas was right in the middle of it. It snowed on a Wednesday, and the following Wednesday there was no snow whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very temperate climate here on Vancouver Island. There
And
are some other areas.
that's where Jim Shockey's from, right? Like the hunter Jim Shockey, like the professional
I
guy.
don't think I know him.
Yeah. Do y'all got like a lot of bears?
Not on the island, no.
Okay.
No,
All right.
they're like, inland,
Right.
actually in my hometown, it was an epidemic of bears, like
Oh wow.
everywhere. And yeah, when I was visiting my dad, it was like, okay, can you go and pick up all the bear poop, which I'd never seen before, but man, is it ever massive.
Right.
It's just like, wow. And they would just sit up in his apple tree for about 45 minutes and just sit there eating the apples. But it was, and I think the city is, well, it was, maybe it's like 91,000 people in the city. And it was just, they were not, taking the bears out, I guess, due to the fire, the forest fires up there and stuff like that. The bears were being pushed into the town.
Oh
And,
wow.
but yeah, lots of bears. Being on an island, I don't even know if we have bears. I do know we do have deer and cougars
Oh yeah.
and fox and things like that. But I think because first of all they have to get over here to
Right.
through the ocean, and I know there is some areas where it's between islands and stuff like that. There is a bit more shallow water, so some animals have gone over here, but like we just have the trash pandas and like I
Right.
said, the cougars. But again, very it's not a prolific thing here. The
Right.
deer though are the deer, and they call the island. It's like this is for the newlywed and the nearly dead. That's who's here, just because our climate is so temperate
Right.
and so the deer, it's lots of golf courses all over, and the deer just like, I'll be driving down the road and and the deer's walking towards me in the middle of the road, and it's like beep beep, and it's like no, I this is where I live,
Right.
hello.
I got the right of way here. What are you doing? Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
like,
no.
do you get to grow could you grow all season long outdoors? Like right
Yeah.
now, could you be you could?
Yeah.
So you could grow like root crops and stuff like that during the winter time then?
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
you can, some things would need some coverage, like
Right.
depending on those temperatures. So yes, you could do you could do your lettuces and things like that. Yes, I do have beets in, but I've just got them under reme cloth, and they'll be fine
That's
throughout the.
crazy.
Hmm.
I need to move
Hmm.
to Vancouver.
It
Yeah.
is, it's, but so you've talked about, you've asked me about pest control and stuff like that, about, so what are um like, is it the tomato vine board that do you get that? Is that what it's
So
called? Oh,
we get squash vine borer.
squash vine board.
Yeah.
So, and then what's the tomato one?
The tomato is it's called a hornworm, tomato hornworm.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
See, I 3 years of, because I've only been growing for 3 years.
Right.
I've never experienced anything with the tomatoes. My pest is last year in my studio up in the attic. Not that they didn't make it into the actual studio, but just somewhere up in the back, I had a rat's nest, and
Right.
they were just eating everything. You
Oh
just see
wow.
a tomato start to blush, you turn it around, and it would have bites out of it.
Yeah.
And so that was the only kind of pest. I do I see the cabbage moths, we get those, but again, I don't know if it's not the right climate um, for, I'm sure those pests are here, but I've never
Right.
experienced them. Never,
Right.
not the squash ones, not the tomatoes.
So, like, do you guys get like cucumber beetles though? Like they look like a yellow ladybug,
Nope,
but they're yellow. Really?
never
Like
seen them.
those things kill us down here. Like absolutely destroy our plants because it gives us yellow vining disease and it kills the squash plants. So it don't matter if it's pumpkin plants or any kind of squash plant. It'll kill that
Wow.
plant. Yeah, and it just
Wow.
takes one bite and it kills the plant. It's called yellow vining disease. So yeah, you're like super lucky not to have any of those issues up there because I mean, down here, like those issues are very prolific and happen all the time, and we got to combat that. So I mean, that's great that you don't have to worry about that because then you get to focus more on the food and you don't have to worry about having to control the pests. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, like I said, it's like not that it's a pest, but it's like, yeah, I get the powdered mildew and then the rats. But um, I've done what I can to try to stop any rat infestation in the studio, and then I do put out rat traps and caught a lot. Once I found the right trap, because I even hired an exterminator twice, and it was like he'd come once a week and he'd go, "Oh, I just found two babies," and you're like, "Really?"
Yeah, I know
Really?
there's
And
more than
then,
that.
yeah, and it's like when
Yeah.
I got my snap traps up, it was like in the month of August last year, it was like I caught 20,
Oh
and it
wow.
was like, which is, yeah, like it. We were out one evening, I think yeah, it was in August, and it's just getting to twilight, and the tree that is in behind my studio, it was like it looked like a cartoon because you see all these shadows of all these rats coming out,
Oh
and you
wow.
go, and it was just awful. But this year, I think they got onto two, maybe three tomatoes, and that was it. So whether there was just enough food out in other places, and also they weren't living here. When they were
Right.
living in my studio, it was like, well, let's go down to the grocery store. Let's just go down there. Look at all that food. She's got food for us. We should eat it all. You
Right.
know.
Right.
So because they weren't living on the property, they were passing through and that.
Right.
So.
So
Mhm,
I got
mhm.
a couple more questions for you. How do you guys get from mainland to the island?
By a ferry. By a
So there's no
very
bridge?
expensive no, by a very expensive ferry. It's for
Wow.
me to go from Vancouver Island to Vancouver and back, it's $180 with one person and my vehicle. It's absolutely,
So you
and it
gotta
is
pay
part
by
of.
person in your vehicle?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What?
Yeah. It's
Oh
it's
my
basically
goodness.
20 bucks a person in your vehicle. Mhm.
So
There
what
is
like
seniors day, I think, on Wednesday, where I think, a senior can travel for free.
right? That's like
Yeah, it is
what if you
absolutely it's
so you don't
absolutely ridiculous.
so you don't go to the mainland much.
Not much.
So
Not
everything is there. Like what if you needed to go like is the stores there and the hospital and everything there on the island
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. Yeah, no, this is the trading community in like well, when you look at Vancouver Island, I think there was a picture years ago. If you took um, United Kingdom, United Kingdom fit would be small compared to Vancouver Island itself. So, like the trading community just in where I live is, I think, about 350,000 people just in this part of the city.
Right.
And then as you go up, there's more towns. No, no, no. It's a full on. We've got the Empress where the Queen, whenever she came, that's where she would stay, and it's beautiful, ornate, and our House of, or not House of Commons, the legislative building, like um,
Right.
Victoria, where I live here, is it is the um, what would be like your state capital or whatever. It would be equivalent to that, I think, is what it's called. So yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's that's cool though, but man, that's pretty pricey. Like, man, and then you got to pay per person. Like they won't even let the kids ride for free. Like, what if you got an infant? You got to pay for the infant.
Well, I think a baby. I think it's like 5 and under is probably free. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's an hour and a half, about hour and a half ferry ride. It's not
Wow.
that far, and there is multiple islands along the way, and they have talked about like we should bridge it,
Yeah.
But the thing is that you are at the mercy of the ferries. So there was one time I was traveling up because my mom had she'd had emergency gallbladder surgery, not gallbladder, appendix surgery. And so I was flying up, and wintertime is the worst time to go. So I've got to fly out of Vancouver. So I'm taking the ferry over, giving myself enough time to get to the airport. Da, 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 da. So there I am. We're all getting in line, and they go, the ferry is canceled. And you're like, but I have a flight that I have to go and get in,
Right.
in 5 hours. I have to make my way across. So I
Right.
ended up doing a puddle jumper and flying over. I think, and the flight is like 20 minutes long, and probably paid probably $250 for this 20-minute flight to get me
Oh,
over there.
wow.
Yeah, to be there to catch my next plane. So yeah, that's the one negative thing about living on the island. You have everything here. It's the temperature is great. The landscape is absolutely exquisite. You're going to find
Right.
your waterfalls. There is everything that you can imagine is here. But it's like getting on and off the island. That is the thing where it's just like it's a gut punch. You go, it's
Right.
costing me $200 just to go and visit my sister for an afternoon.
That's crazy. So I mean, you really don't get to see anybody much then, you know what I mean? Because I mean, nobody can afford to pay that kind of money. Do you like living on the island?
Yes, I do.
Is it worth that give and take, you know what I mean? Of not being able to.
If you're not interested in, and there is no reason to go to Vancouver, like big concert or if like I do have family there, right?
Right.
But there isn't. Everything is here that you need. There's nothing. There's no need to go over there. It's not like, okay, I'll save money if I go and buy XYZ
Right.
from there as opposed to it's just no, it is beautiful. I am wanting to get off of the island, but I'd like to live in the Vancouver area just because of my parents are aging, and if I get that 3 o'clock in the morning call that says, hey, one of them is dying, I can't just jump in my car and go. I would have to wait till 6 o'clock in the morning, make sure that I'm in line because there is only so many. It fits upwards to 200 and some odd cars on these ferries, right?
Okay.
And then the passenger capacity is even bigger, and
Right.
so it's like you have to be in time or make a reservation. Which at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to make a reservation. I just have to be there. Basically go over, and then for me to go home to my parents' place. It's basically about a 14-hour trip, which is it's a 1-hour flight basically out of Vancouver.
Okay.
From Vancouver, I can do it in 6-7 hours. You are going through mountains and terrain like that. So yeah.
Sounds pretty though. I mean, I mean, I've seen pictures and videos of it, and I always thought it was really pretty up there.
It is.
So,
It is beautiful. But I would just like to be on the mainland, and just to not just for the cost of the ferry, but just it's the fact that you can't just go.
you can't go when you want
Part
to.
of your planning always. And again, in 2020, they were like, unless you're doing essential traveling, you're not allowed to go on the ferry. And so, it wasn't the truth,
Right.
But once you hear one person say they got turned around at the ferry, then nobody goes.
Right.
And, you were allowed to go if you had work to do or blah, 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 blah. And so my daughter and I, we were going to travel up and go do yard work at my mom's. And so it was like, we've got tools in the back. But as you drove up and they said, is this essential travel? And you looked up at them and you just said, yeah. And they said, okay. There was no, but you see, one person just has to say, they got turned around, and then you think we can't travel, and it's like
right. It's the fear, it's that fear tactic that
so I don't want that again. But believe it or not, there are people who live in Vancouver but work here, and there are people that live here and work in Vancouver, and they travel every single day on the ferry, or they take the puddle jumper, like the float plane, over every
every
single day.
day.
Yep.
How could you afford to do that?
I think their companies are probably paying for it.
It must be either that or they got a season pass or something, right?
Yeah, there's no season pass. Everybody pays the same,
That's funny.
Yeah.
So my last question for you before we let you go is, why do you like creating content?
Why do I like creating content? Well, originally when I first started videotaping myself, I had videos, and they were just on Facebook. And the reason that I did them was for my mom. And because it would be like, I talk to my mom every night. We always close out the day with, what did you do? So I would say to her, well, I took this, down the path, the one that's by, because she's been to my home, over here by this. And she'd like, no, I don't recall that. So then I just thought, well, I'm going to start making these videos so that I can basically show my mom. And I had just a small group, because as I moved away from being a jazz singer, there would be different people go, I haven't seen you perform. Are you okay? Like, is something wrong? And I go, no. I just became Farmer Mo. I'm just gardening over here. Just, I'm wearing flannel and growing vegetables and raising chickens and loving my life. And so I would add them into this group because it was like they weren't polished videos, and not that my videos are polished now, but it's like I do understand a little bit more of camera work and what you should and shouldn't do and whatever.
Right.
And then it was I think it was in February 2022, I decided to, bring them out to Facebook or to YouTube. And so I just started adding those, and then those ones that were, 20 minutes of me, time lapsing, walking back and forth, cleaning the coop, I threw those up there as well, just because, it's extra content. So for the most part, to start, it's always for my mom. And on those days where I get discouraged about making content,
right,
I always go, okay, remember why you're doing this. You're doing it so that your mom can be a part of your life. And then, as I've kind of just grown as a grower, one of my mandates is I love to use the hashtag grow your own food.
Yep.
And I just want to encourage people to grow your own food. It's like, yeah, you see what's in the stores, like, you go to, the big store, and you look at their cantaloupes, and I think they were $4.99, which was a good price. But when you looked at them, they looked plastic.
Yep.
Every single one. It wasn't like this one's a little bigger or this line. It was like every single one was exactly the same. And a friend of mine, she'd, bought from that big store as well, raspberries, and they were big raspberries, and all lined up so perfectly in this plastic. And she said, yeah, there's no flavor in them at all. And so the other thing is, so first of all, it's my mom. I make videos so that my mom can watch and be a part of my life.
Right.
Second reason why I make videos is because I was a jazz and blues diva that had nothing to do with dirt. I like to look at it and I'll eat from it, but I had no intentions of rolling around in it. And so I want to show people that, yeah, like even a ungardening diva can actually grow vegetables and feed her family and provide for her family.
That's awesome. It's so true. I think a lot of times we get stuck in this, bubble of, well, this is what I am, this is what I do, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of let that be the boundary to which we live our life by, and we don't really try to ever explore outside of that. And I always love it when somebody goes and explores outside of that and finds what truly makes them happy, which is growing your own food and having fun with it. Because if more people knew how fun it was and how, you know, kind of liberating, right? I mean, there's a sense of freedom to that, right?
Yeah.
Many more people, I believe, would do that. And so that's just awesome to hear you tell your story about, you know, why you do that. And, you know, it's like, you know, my dad, he watches our content every morning. He gets up and checks and see, you know, and if I haven't posted something, he calls and says, "Where's the video at?" Yeah, sorry. Either there wasn't one today, or, you know, you know, I've slacked off the past, you know, month and a half or so, because we've been just so busy. But, you know, he goes, "We ain't seen nothing posted for a long time. What's going on over there?" You know,
Right.
um,
Right.
and I'm like you know, I do this, you know, so that he can see what we do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's you know, he's still an hour away, but he's getting older. He don't drive as well anymore, and you know, and stuff. But it's not that he don't drive as well. He can't sit for as long, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's fun to just get to show him what we do, and then the
Mhm.
other part is making memories for the kids. You know, the kids,
Absolutely.
they get to sit back and watch it and learn,
Absolutely.
and we as creators get to learn from ourselves. We go back and we watch that stuff and we say, "Oh, yeah, we got to change that. We got to fix that," or
Yep.
we can use it for notes on how we grew last year and how we improved this year. You know,
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't done it this year, but it's like I'll do the what worked, what didn't work, so that I can watch that. And, you know, I I've done 2 sessions where you know, dispatching and dressing chickens. And so I've made you know, 2 sort of videos about them. Didn't get any trouble with the second one, which had I didn't, you know, not the dispatching part, but just the dressings of them. And so that's actually for me to remind myself, once I do have my farm, it's like, okay, what were the steps? What were the steps that she was showing me on, you know, how to, you know, take apart this chicken? And it's like, it's for my own educational purposes for later on, which is,
yep,
you know, kind of cool. And again, I agree, it's memories. And so this is, you know, for my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, they can see, you know, just how crazy their grandma, great grandma was, and all the things that she did. And you know, and as well to teach, you know, for my kids to, you know, how did mom say to do that? You know, they can just look it
right.
up on, you know. Mm-hmm.
That,
Mm-hmm.
that's really good, because, like I said, that's what it's all about. It's just
It is.
passing it along to everybody,
Yeah.
family, friends, and people we don't even know watch. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And to encourage them, it's like, you know, sure, maybe you're not going to be a person who wants to butcher chickens, but you know, you can be a person that can grow rutabagas and can grow onions. And well, I can't grow onions, I suck at growing onions, but I it doesn't make me stop trying every year. And but we just put in 800, a friend of mine from my church, he goes, I built this, you know, this garden bed for my wife, and it's too far from the house, so she doesn't want it. Do you want to use it? And I was like, yes.
right.
So so we just put in 860 cloves of garlic in it about 2 weeks ago. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so this will be my first time to have like a real garden bed where it's, you know, long and long rows, row gardening. I have, you know, sections and
Right.
small spaces, you know, little 4 foot small space that I'm cramming everything
But you
into.
still
So
grew like almost 1,500 pounds of food, or 1,500 pounds
yeah,
of food in little nooks and crannies, you know. So, man,
yeah,
I would like to see what you can do with a whole lot of land. You know,
exactly.
that would be
Yeah,
pretty fun. That would be pretty
yeah, it,
fun.
it, it will be very, very cool. So
So,
mhm.
you know, last thing, what's coming up in this next year? You got any plans for this next year?
Well, to try to grow more than I grew this year. Certain things I think I will go, you know what? Stop. You're beating a dead horse. You can't grow that. Just let it go. Um, I'm switching around a few things. I would like, you know, I don't have any big projects. The only project, you know, or the is the dream of, you know, and it's going to take a miracle um, for me to, you know, move. But that would be, you know, that's what I would really love, is to be thinking about the fact that I'm, you know, buying property and moving. But it's like kind of have to have a job when you try to get a mortgage and that kind of stuff, and I don't, and
Right.
so that would I other than that, going, I'd love for my dream to come true for next year, like that we were actually in the process of moving, in
Right.
this. That would be the best thing. But just trying to grow more, uh, grow better, you
Right.
know, understand more because like I said, I am so new to gardening that it's like, and I know every grower you go, you're always learning, you're always learning something new, but it's like I'm still coming in from that baby space of,
Right.
I didn't, like someone just said to me the other day, they go, um, growing potatoes in different parts of soil, they're soil fixers. And it was like, I didn't know that potatoes were soil fixers. That's new to me. So I pulled where I usually have my, 800 cloves of garlic, or I did 700 last year. So 700 there, I'm starting to see a bit of the soil virus starting to come up in there. So that's going to be where we put the potatoes. So addressing, soil issues and things like that, and just trying to up my own game of more more produce, more provision. I would love to see myself starting to sell it, but I there is just this weird wall that I can't seem to get past. It's like this weekend going with family. I said, "Does anybody want any sourdough?" And it was like a few people put their hands up, and I thought, "Fine." The most bread, most loaves I've made in one sitting were about 8, and so I just thought I'm just going to do 10. And I
Right.
have this great little wood fire Furno oven, and so it basically cook all 10 loaves of bread took me under 2 hours to cook with the wood fire. But it's like the bread's beautiful, and it would be like I'd really love to sell it. Actually, I need to sell it to make some sort of income, but I just can't seem to get past that wall of um, making that connection. Like a few people will go, "Hey, next time you make some, let me know," and I'll sell a loaf
Right.
here or there. But it's I don't know what that hesitation is, but that's what I would like myself to be focusing in on is the prolificness of some of the squashes that are going on throughout the year, and people walking by and they're going, I've never seen that before, but it's like, here, I have a little farm stand. So I'd
Yep.
love to. So all that big, long, drawn out thing is to say, I would like to have a farm stand, but I'm in my way is what my problem is.
There's a nice little one right down the road here that they just put up. Okay. They took 4x4s and they built a little frame, and it's on a I guess the honor system, right?
Right.
Make sure you pay or whatever. And they're doing really well at it. They're doing really, it's just for eggs right now, but they're
Yeah.
doing really well. And I think we're going to make us one, and we're going to, because my dad, he's been getting into this big kick of making sourdough bread and stuff. And I told
Mhm.
him literally just yesterday when we were over there, I said, Dad, you can make a lot of money off of this, right? You know that, right? And he's like, I can. Yeah, you can. So if you don't want to make it, let me know. I'll make the money for us, right? And so we're thinking about, kicking around some of those things.
Oh, I
And
have my little stand. Like my daughter went and found me. It's a refurbished. I think it was like an entertainment unit, and then somebody used it for their guinea pig, and so it's got wire in it. It's very, very, very cute. So and I think it was free, and so it's like we've got it sitting on the side of the house with a tarp on it, and yeah, and it's like so you have. I do need to put an actual roof on it or something, so if it's outside. And so no, I like I said, it's just the only person that's in my way of making an effort to go, okay, it's like Friday, it's like I can put it out there, make your order for sourdough bread Monday, you pick, you pay up front, pick it up Friday. But I could have a farm stand for the veggies and things like that. But the sourdough bread, you know, the elements and animals, you
right,
just don't want put a
right,
loaf
right,
of bread
right,
outside. So
right.
yeah,
Well, hopefully you do it, and
get over myself.
Right. And learn to let go of some of them things, Yeah. So you can only can so much. You can only do so much with all that you got, right?
That's right.
Some of that 1,500 pounds of food you're going to have to let go of. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, here,
Especially if you double that next year, you'd really have to let go of it. So,
yes, yeah. Then there's no choice. But I did, when friends come over, it's like, here, here's a zucchini, here's a squash, here's a butternut. Here you go, and la la la. So,
or even if you did a CSA, that would be pretty good, where just be like, hey, once a week I'll give you X, Y, and Z. These are your options, and you can make packages of $25, $50, and $100 a month. And load them up that way. Those are pretty successful. Most people do them. So, so where can people find you at, and stuff, and let them know where they can find you at, and what your routine is for video release, if you have any.
Yeah, I tend to try to release one long form video on Mondays, and then Thursdays I try to do a short, and then I usually try to do a live Saturday evenings I start at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, so that's like 10 o'clock for
Right.
Eastern Standard people. And then I do have a website because and that's one of the things. It's like, I'm not just Diva in the Dirt. I had to put my name on my channel, like, because it's like if people were looking for Maureen Washington, they wouldn't find Diva in the Dirt. So that's why it's
Right.
like it's combo. So,
Right.
because I do have a music channel, and but I do have a website, maureenwashington.ca, or you can do maureenwashington.com. I own both of those, and that'll take you. It's like there's a landing page. Will take you through my music side, or will take you through my newfound love of being a diva in the dirt, not just a diva in the stage. And I do have t-shirts. Like I do have, just some t-shirts and some stickers and keychains, things like that. A few little merchy type of things that people can go, hey, I'm a diva in the dirt too.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, guys, y'all make sure you go out and check out Maureen's stuff over at Diva in the Dirt, and make sure if you're not subscribed to her channel. She's a really good person, and I've enjoyed this evening. Going to go over who we have coming up in the next couple of episodes here, and then we'll wrap up. We'll end this, and we'll wrap up on the other side of it. So next week on the 21st, we have Ed from Prepper Nurse One. He's going to be with us. On the 28th, we have Stephen from Hematite Homestead. He'll be back with us. We're going to talk about his hunting success. Hopefully he's having some hunting success, and it's not like my hunting failure right now that I've had so far today. And then on December 5th, we're going to have Enoch Graham, the urban gardener, coming on with us. December 12th, we're going to have Jason Lorish. He is the world record holder for the butternut squash at 132 pounds, I think it is. Yeah,
Wow.
so, yeah, that thing. He blew my 83 pounder away. So, and then the December 19th and December 26th are open. And I don't know that we're going to fill those up this year. I've actually thought about going on Tony from Kettle Kitchen's little game show on Tuesday nights. And he's tried to get me on a couple times. So I may take those 2 weeks and do that. Have a little break from this because we've almost went a year strong. I think I started this the first week of January, and we've not missed one single Tuesday yet. So that's been pretty.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been very, very good.
Especially for tonight, where it's like, when you came in, it was like, okay, so there's a buck out there that's bleeding, and I couldn't catch him, so I'm here to do the live. And then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go back and go look for the buck. Honey, can you get this tick off me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still here for my live.
Right. I will not miss a live. I refuse to miss a live. So I think I did a live when we were on the road. I'd forgot that I had a live with Tony, and I did it from the truck while I was eating Chick-fil-A. Like, I will not miss a live. Right. It's just something I won't do. But I would like to get a couple of you guys that are in the chat right now, like Lark's Homestead there. I would like to get you guys on here, or Homestead-ish. I'd like to get you guys on maybe for the first weekend or first Tuesday in January. Maybe I can get you or even Brampton Gardner to come on. So if you guys would like to come on, send me an email at babydrill2119@yahoo.com. So because I would like to get you guys scheduled on here. But guys, it's been a really good place, and I really appreciate you coming on again. I really enjoyed having you on. I'd like to get you on again sometime again next year. Just kind of check out what you got going on next spring or summertime, and see how things are improving up there, because I'm amazed at how much food you grew in that little space, and I may have to take some lessons from you. You know, I may have to learn how to grow in a more confined space. That way, I can kind of put those ways to the bigger area that I'm doing, right? So I think there's a lot to learn here from you. Also, GT, if you want to come on, man, I'd like to get you on too, man. So again, guys,
all of those are just great people. Just great
they are
people.
very, very good people. So, but yeah, it's been a great place to be, and I really appreciate everybody in the chat coming in and watching tonight. And thank you again for coming on and doing this with me. I really appreciate it. So
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We'll get you back on in the spring or the summer and see how everything's going up there. But guys, we're going to wrap this up, because like she said, I got to go find a deer, hopefully find him. And check the video out. That video is going to, whether I found him or I don't, there's going to be a video on it, because I've got a bunch of footage. So anyhow, guys, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time right here in the hollers and hills of West Virginia. We'll see y'all.
Bye-bye.